May is just getting started, and we are already drowning in awesome games, so the best new releases begins with Gold Adventure Gold, which is releasing in 1.0, a hand-drawn fantasy city builder with some majesty and black and white influence, in which you are growing a town but can send adventurers out on missions to monster-filled dungeons, provided that the price is right, slowly turning your settlement into a thriving capital city. Add markets, taverns, gambling halls and guilds to attract more heroes and use the wealth they bring back to expand the town, also raising a god beast as your pet, which you can brush, pet and discipline so that it grows, evolves and learns powerful spells that can help defend the city, having some fantastic art and did well in early access. Mad King Redemption is a side-scrolling roguelite beat-em-up set in a kingdom that has fallen to a mad king who used forbidden magic to try to bring his dead queen back, but lost his sanity in the process. Choose from 4 characters and smash through hordes of enemies, with each character having their own signature styles, customizable stats and detailed backstories that flesh out the run. Roguelite progression sits underneath all of that, with hero upgrades, unlockable skills and randomized elements, keeping each playthrough distinct, but at its core remains quite the classic beat-em-up, perhaps Golden Axe inspired, with Absalom showing that it is possible to make a great roguelite in this space, so I hope this is as well. This video is brought to you by Vacation Cafe Simulator, a cozy cafe management sim set in an Italian vacation town where you cook traditional dishes through hands-on mini-games, serve customers at your own pace with no timers and no pressure, and gradually build the restaurant of your dreams. Pizza, pasta, and bruschetta gets prepared through dedicated cooking sequences that look very satisfying in that tactile manner, where delighting your customers earns you money, which goes into new equipment, expanded menu options, and interior upgrades to pretty up the place. The world opens up beyond the cafe too, since you can visit nearby wineries and farms to source ingredients, walking around in first person and exploring the town, and can even purchase Vespas, which allows for faster travel across the open world and a better way to enjoy the scenery, simply looking so cozy. So if interested, wishlist the game on Steam via the link in the description below. Call of the Elder Gods is the follow-up to Call of the Sea, a Lovecraftian first-person puzzle adventure that swaps between 2 main characters, Professor Harry Everhart and his student Evangeline Drayton, both haunted by visions tied to an artifact uncovered a decade ago at Miskatonic University. The journey takes you from a fire-lit New England mansion to the red sands of the Australian outback, frozen wastelands and otherworldly cities outside of time itself, retaining a similar kind of puzzle adventure gameplay to the original, but where you have to swap between the 2 characters in order to progress. Toggleable hints tune the difficulty if you get stuck, with a very well done, creepy Lovecraftian atmosphere, and should be awesome as well. This next title has a tremendous amount of hype behind it, where Don't Panic is just Turbulence is a fast-paced 2-player co-op puzzle game in the vein of Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, where one of you sits in the cockpit of a failing aircraft as the pilot, surrounded by malfunctioning instruments and screaming alarms, and the other plays as air traffic controller, reading out instructions and guiding the pilot through every emergency over voice chat. Communication is key as you talk the other player through as clearly and concisely as you can, where each aircraft has its own unique layout, puzzle set and difficulty curve for plenty of replayability. Levels range from simple, light planes to more complex builds with strange system quirks and unexpected failures, and there are of course timed puzzles as well, so see if you're able to stay calm under pressure, looking like fun with a friend. Love indie games? Sign up to my newsletter to get a weekly dose of what's hot, along with some news and of course, weekly game giveaways, so if interested, link is in the description below. One of my most anticipated titles of the week is Besmirch, a horror farming sim where you have been hired to work the failing land of an isolated town, slowly being crushed under the Baron's tithe, with whispers of apocalypse drifting between shuttered windows and unholy monstrosities walking the fields the moment night falls. Each seed is a struggle to coax from the barren earth, and every harvest is a hard-won victory as you balance feeding the desperate townsfolk against paying tribute to the Baron or else. Outside of the farm, The outskirts hide buried secrets, forgotten sins, and the Baron's crumbling mansion, which you can scavenge in the day, but the moment darkness falls, you have to hurry home, seal the doors, and pray for morning light. The townsfolk judge omens just as much as your deeds, with their blessings turning to curses when their hunger rises, so walking that line between superstition and devotion can be pretty intense, with a sick, minimalist art style and colour palette that makes it quite distinct. Other games begin with Black Jacket, a blackjack-inspired roguelite deck builder where you gamble your way out of hell, going head-to-head against the restless souls of the afterlife to win their coin so that you can bribe the ferryman and escape. Each match is a twisted version of blackjack rather than a straightforward card game, with powerful cards layered on top that bend the rules, forcing opponents to overcommit. These include increasing or decreasing card values, controlling your opponent's deck, peeking at your own, or to swap cards with your opponent, so stack your deck with the right cards, control the table, and chain combos to beat the odds that look impossible at first glance, with near infinite combinations opening up across each run. Artifacts, card suits, and curses add additional layers, with a little bit of a narrative and backstory to uncover for each character as well, and does look like a fascinating take on this subgenre. Down with the Ship is a shipbuilding auto-battler about assembling your own vessel, stuffing it full of powerful hardware and sending it to war against fabrications built by other captains while you watch the chaos unfold. You pick a captain at the start, each with their own doctrine, oddball passives, warped hull layouts, and dirty tricks that bias the ship towards certain themes or strategies, but you can mix pirate plunder with alien biotech and imperial armor whenever a build calls for it. The shop spits out a handful of parts each round, including guns, reactors, parasites, shields, and cursed junk, where part rarity is not the be-all end-all, and you do need to consider their contribution to your overall build. You are essentially playing inventory Tetris here as well, rotating and placing components as needed to maximize your space, being similar to games like Backpack Battles, but with a different theme and looks great. Elfie, a Sand Plan is a cute and relaxing geometric puzzle game where you help Elfie, a small rotund elephant, build sand castles by matching sand sculptures with whatever she has in mind. Each level hands you a set of sand blocks to arrange into a target shape with no timers, no fixed solutions, and no penalty for taking your time, since Elfie is happy as long as the final construction matches her vision. There are 186 levels across 3 difficulties, plus a no hints mode for anyone who wants to test their 3D visualization skills even more, with cozy summer pixel art and a joyful beach soundtrack to add to the chill vibes. I'm always down for detective noir titles, and one of note is Feline Forensics and the Meowseum Mystery, where you play as a crime-busting tabby cat assigned to crack the heist of the museum's most valuable gemstone, except the case has already devolved into a grisly murder. You converse with and cross-examine every suspect using deductive reasoning to expose mismatched alibis and to untangle motivations, where if you fail the investigation, this will result in the perpetrators walking free and the museum shutting down. The hand-drawn art is fantastic and does have a sense of humour with way too many cat puns, so if you love games like Duck Detective, this might be worth a look. Luna's Room is a short point-and-click exploration adventure game set entirely inside a single unsettling enigmatic room where every object you can interact with carries meaning. There's no combat and no complex puzzles, only observation and interpretation, with the story revealing itself to you through atmosphere, symbolism, and emotional resonance as you piece together who Luna actually is. I love the pixel art here, and it does seem to be rather classically designed, taking cues from the classics from the 90s, with the single fixed location sure looking like a clever way to work around a smaller budget. We also have the 1.0 release of NITRO Gen Omega, a turn-based mech tactical RPG set in a wasteland where humanity has lost the war and rogue AI war machines crawl across the world. You and your mercenary crew take contracts from the last cities built high above the wastelands, flying across this massive open world full of settlements, machine lairs, missions, and unexpected events before you engage in the combat system. The key thing here is a planning phase, followed by fully animated anime-inspired battle sequences as you command a 4-pilot squad with each pilot controlling a different mech subsystem, dodging, firing, deploying coolant, or unleashing special tactics through a timeline system where every second shapes the flow of battle. Between missions, your airship is your home, where pilots can cook, train, relax and bond, or form rivalries that influence how they fight. Your mech can be rebuilt, but your pilots cannot, which gives every battle real weight, where this truly is some of the most amazing animations that I have seen and will be for mech game fans. OCTOPinbs is a 3 to 10 player social deduction action game where you and your friends play as firefighters racing to put out a raging fire while saboteurs secretly try to incinerate the place or to take all the firefighters down. The stages evolve constantly with raging fires and collapsing floors, so you have to balance putting out the flames against watching for suspicious behavior from your teammates. The firefighters win by reducing the stage incineration meter to 0, or by stuffing every saboteur into an octo jar, while the saboteurs win by torching the stage or knocking out every firefighter. Of course, despite the more serious subject matter, the octopus twist gives it a more light-hearted edge, perhaps Splatoon-like in spots, but can be as cutthroat as the most intense of Among Us sessions, so grab a couple of friends and jump in. I've had my eye on RoadOut for quite a while as well, a pixel art post-apocalyptic action-adventure RPG that combines top-down twin-stick combat with driving mechanics, blending Zelda-style dungeon exploration with a GTA-style open world and rock and roll racing-style combat racing into a single package. You play as Claire, a black market courier in the Dead Zone, taking contracts that range from delivery to sabotage to murder, while 3 rival factions, the Wasteheads, the Sabai Kuran and the Order of the New Code, fight over what is left of a world dominated by a rogue AI. Drive your car between locations, doing jobs and earning clout, then exit on foot to enter puzzle-filled dungeons using short and long-ranged attacks, shields and crafted drugs to get the better of your enemies. Body mods, cybernetics and a dense skill tree lets you customize Claire's build, with the car itself being upgradable, looking like a very interesting mix of ideas and is the hidden gem of the week. After about 1.5 years in early access, we are also getting the 1.0 release of Rogue Command, a single-player roguelite real-time strategy game that looks like a combination of Command & Conquer and StarCraft, in which you control units, build bases, harvest resources, defend positions and plan attacks, with a roguelite run-based structure to the game for plenty of replayability. While an RTS at its core, you're allowed to trigger slow-mo at any moment to give orders precision when the action gets overwhelming, which keeps the moment-to-moment gameplay manageable without flattening the difficulty. Between battles, you choose new tools for the fights ahead, with blueprints adding new buildings to your engineer's database, including unit factories, defensive turrets and super weapons, as well as various upgrades which makes units stronger or adds new traits like burn damage for plenty of options. So if you were looking for an RTS, this comes pretty highly recommended. I've been keeping an eye on Shattered Divinities due to what else but their pixel art, where this is an awesome looking Metroidvania set in a world ruined by the Divine War, with mutated creatures roaming the land and time itself frozen in places. You play as a warrior who awakens among the ruins, braving the tainted land, the lightless abyss and the formidable stairways across 9 broken regions and over 100 rooms, battling 20 bosses corrupted by divine power in order to reclaim the abilities that the fallen deities left behind. I believe this is from a Chinese developer, so translation might be a little fiddly, where combat is centered on 5 divine marks in the phase step for dodging, ethereal step for nimble movement, bulwark for impenetrable defense, assault for strikes, and invocation for summoning creatures to fight beside you, each having multiple unlocks, which could be quite powerful when fully upgraded, so fans of the genre do check this out. Yet another 1.0 release is Space Haven, which has been in early access since 2020 and has almost 10,000 Steam reviews as of recording, meaning that it's a pretty popular title that looks set to blow up at full launch. This is a spaceship colony sim where you guide a ragtag crew of civilians through deep space while building the ship tile by tile, managing oxygen and CO2 levels, regulating temperature and power, and trying to keep everyone fed, rested and reasonably sane. Every facility you place serves a purpose, with crew members sleeping in the beds you build, using the toilets you place, getting disturbed by noisy rooms, and praising you for installing an arcade machine for some R&R. The isometric tile-based gas system simulates oxygen, CO2, hazardous fumes, temperature, and crew comfort all at the same time, with humans, plants, and facilities all reacting to the conditions you create around them. So the living ecosystem aspect of the game sure looks intriguing. You will meet other space-faring groups along the way, fighting off boarding parties or striking trade deals depending on how things go, with each ship design becoming a trade-off between symmetry, function, and survival, so RimWorld fans, you might want to give this a look. Steel Artery Train City Builder is a steampunk fantasy city builder where the city is a colossal train called Steel Polis, and you have just been appointed mayor of its reborn version. Every carriage you add becomes a new piece of infrastructure, with humans, elves, orcs, and other races forming relationships, possibly invoking cultural tensions and bringing different needs and values onto the train. Citizens are autonomous rather than direct subjects, working, eating, resting, and spending money based on their own choices, so a worker might refuse a faraway job, quit after earning enough gold, or pivot to an entirely new profession that their heart called for. Every building generates or consumes resources, salaries cost gold, inns charge for rest, and so on, so you are once again managing a living colony that looks very intriguing. Your city's survival depends on stopping in resource-rich regions to extract what you need, all while being constricted by the limited space, with the minimal pixel art looking good zoomed in or out, and will be for fans of the genre. The Adventures of Sir Kicksalot is a first-person action game that fans of Dark Messiah of Might and Magic might be interested in which you are defeating enemies through any combination of weaponry, magic, stealth, or simply kicking them into deadly spikes. Hack, slash, bash, stab, throw weapons, disarm, grapple, and kick anything and everything, where you do have blocks and rolling for defense as well. The elemental spells include Incineration, Freezing, Electrocution, Illusion, and Telekinesis, with the option to deploy spells as ground traps, infuse them into your weapons, or even wilder abilities such as mind-controlling enemies. There's also stealth, letting you sneak past patrols, backstab guards, pickpocket weapons, hide in barrels, or distract them with thrown objects, and the environment is full of conveniently placed hazards waiting for the right kick, definitely having some sim influence. TOHOTOPIA is a relaxing, casual 4-act strategy game drawing from the Toho Project universe, in which you lead an empire and vie for dominance against the Maidens of Gensokyo. Comparisons can be made to the Battle of Polytopia and Civilization as you explore the map, uncovering fog of war, expanding territory, building cities, raising armies, and conquering your enemies, all within compact 30-minute matches that cut out the late game grind. This will be an early access release, having 4 factions at launch, each led by a different variant of a Toho character like Pharaoh Remilia or Emperor Kanako, with their own unique units and civilization quirks. You can ally with rival empires or betray them outright, but is otherwise a classically designed one of these, so it's interesting to see the sheer range of Toho fan games, with the art here being a highlight. Underling Uprising is a beat-em-up with vibrant 90s cartoon inspiration where you play as the Underlings, a group of scientifically enhanced experiments out for revenge against the mad scientists who created them. The combat system is open-ended, letting you create new combos on the fly across an absurd move list that includes super armor, hovering, animation cancels, double jumps, and screen clearing supers triggered by a power bar that fills as you brawl. 4 playable characters each bring distinct playstyles and story-related interactions, from a skateboarding monkey, bouncing booger being, cyborg luchador, and a ghostly family duo that's actually 2 characters that play as one. There are also vehicles or mounts, including spaceports, mech suits, and more, where the art and expressive animations are the highlight and looks pretty good. Here's an interesting mix of ideas, since Vultures, Scavengers of Death is a turn-based tactical survival horror game with an awesome throwback look, set in a place called Salento Valley after a biohazard incident, where you play as vulture operatives trying to extract material that can lead to a cure. Select from 2 agents on the mission, with Leopoldo bringing strength and ingenuity, being able to push and jump over objects in the environment, while Amber brings analytical agility and a grappling gun that lets her traverse the map and control enemy positions. Ammo and health packs are limited, so you have to be careful in your approach to every encounter, being able to sneak past or to disengage enemies to conserve resources if needed. The retro PS1 era aesthetic and Resident Evil DNA are unmistakable, but is now a tactics title, which is interesting, having many of the same elements like gathering keys and codes to open locked doors, making it a curiosity for sure. Another amazing looking game is Whirlight No Time to Trip, also taking inspiration from the 90s, but more of the early PC era of adventure games instead of the PSX. This is a classic point-and-click adventure game where you play as Hector, a weird, brilliant inventor whose every creation seems destined to fail until his most amazing idea finally knocks on the door of his workshop. Finishing the new invention sends him exploring the location of Varys Bay, where he meets Margaret, a strong-willed artist who joins him as the perfect travelling companion. Together, they bounce through a series of adventures across space and time, weaving through unlikely situations and stranger characters until they end up between an imminent threat and the entire world, weaving together humour, sci-fi and time travel together into quite the intriguing package. This one's for indie game developers. The free indie game marketing resources are ready, so sign up via the link in the description below to get it in your mailbox. Subnautica 2 is the next chapter in the Subnautica universe, an underwater survival adventure game on an all-new alien world that you can tackle solo or with up to 3 friends in online co-op, where there has been controversy surrounding its development between the developer and parent company Crofton, which includes legal drama, lawsuits and more, and gets an asterisk since it is quite a large team. Building off the success of the original and Below Zero, you were driven from your home by an ongoing conflict getting on board the Altera colony ship Cicada, which was shepherding you and your fellow pioneers to a new world when something goes wrong. And when the ship's AI demands that the mission continues, you end up stranded on an alien planet and have to survive. Pick from 4 pre-built characters at launch with more added through early access, then dive in with the Tadpole submersible to explore vibrant biomes, design and customize bases for shelter, and slowly grow your toolkit of equipment and vehicles as you progress further along. Scan the biodiversity around you to understand life on this world, constantly being on the lookout for the monstrous leviathans that the series is known for. So trust me on this one, this game's going to be huge. Better Than Dead is a brutal first-person shooter set in photorealistic Hong Kong where you play as a survivor armed with a pistol, a body cam and a kill list. The premise is direct, since the people who broke into her life filmed her and destroyed her, and now she's back with the barrel pointed at them, filming them instead in a grisly twist of fate. Each level is personal as you shoot your way through neon-lit restaurants, seedy nightclubs, back alleys and rooftop dens until she hunts down every single one of her enemies. Gunplay looks pretty raw and visceral, not so much in the Call of Duty video game sense, but rather the photorealism contributes to the violence of pulling the trigger, where it might be too much, maybe? But still, an all-action title worth a look, where this has a linear story campaign and is old school in that sense, taking inspiration from 80s and 90s Hong Kong cinema and is of note. The long in development Clockwork Ambrosia also makes it to launch, a steampunk Metroidvania set in a retro futuristic world, adding a weapon modification twist that looks very cleverly designed. You play as Iris, who can equip 4 different weapons, including the Pulse Breaker, Missile Launcher, Revolver and Grenade Launcher, each with its own characteristics and firing modes. Find and unlock weapon mods as you explore, which reprogram how each weapon behaves, with mods chaining together into builds, where one mod's downside can be countered by another mod's bonuses, covering your weaknesses as you build towards maximum lethality. You can also gain movement abilities such as wall jump to gloves that let you climb along ceilings, all with a vibrant pixel art look that is awesome, giving me some Mega Man vibes and is one to get. Outbound is currently one of the most wishlisted games on Steam, where this cozy open world van life exploration game just has all the cozy vibes. In the near future, the world is a utopia, which leaves you free to roam and explore, starting with an empty camper van and slowly turning it into the home of your dreams, alone or with up to 3 friends in co-op. You build and explore at your own pace, collecting materials, crafting modular parts that snap onto your vehicle, and slowly advancing up the tech tree to power your travelling home with energy drawn from sun, wind, or water. The van is customizable with paint, decorations, and furniture, and you can grow gardens of plants and mushrooms to cook food that will keep you healthy. You can even adopt a pet to feed, train, and bring along on the journey, with each biome and location offering iconic landmarks to discover, and is simply good vibes. Not Good Vibes the game is Dark Light Survivor, an action roguelite where you play as one of the last humans, a dark hunter aboard the Phantom train, journeying through a shattered multiverse in search of the fabled Elysium. The Dark Void has unleashed horrific creatures that decimated humanity and fractured reality itself, so you're desperately using the Phantom train to leap between universes, but need to gather enough energy at each stop to power the next jump. Combat lets you swap between top-down and third-person at any moment, either zooming out to get a better view of what is going on, or to zoom in for more precise aiming. 3 biomes and 3 classes offers replayability, along with 2 visual styles in 4K versus pixel mode, where this will be an early access release with more to come, but I think the launch version will be pretty good as is, having Helldivers meets Vampire Survivors vibes. Watch this video for more action roguelites.